Hi there, everybody. This is John Drew here from Elevated Planet.
Angela Gabrielle here from Elevated Planet, and we'd like to welcome you to today's show where John is going to tell us more about.
2,000 years ago, following the crucifixion, the followers of Jeshua scattered to various locations from where they could continue their teachings of the Way. Jeshua's uncle, Joseph of Arimathea, and Mother Mary moved back to their ancestral roots in England, while Mary Magdalene lived in the Languedoc region of Gaul, which is now France. However, during the years that followed the crucifixion, a Gnostic group met in Midsummer Gatherings on the island of Cyprus, where Mary Magdalene delivered keynote speeches. This is forbidden knowledge, forbidden by the Church because it could lead to enlightenment and empowerment of those who heard it and applied it in their lives. These teachings have a profound relevance for human evolution as we reach the end of this planetary cycle. Through this Magdalene wisdom, we present foundations that bring us towards balance, harmony, and oneness in our lives. This is going to be a really important show. I think that's how I would describe it, because we know that we are at this shift of the ages. We know that there are various things coming to the surface now to be released. We know that we have an opportunity to step back into our power. We've had decades upon decades. In fact, our lifetimes have typically been programmed and conditioned to believe we are far less than we are. And this is now the time when we are stepping into that power. And this show is really all about helping us step into that power and understanding what that journey is like. Because it's not an easy journey. There is decades and decades of programming to unwind. And it is naive, if you like, to say that this is going to be an easy thing. But you have to, again, it's like the game of life, right? But to play any game, you've got to know what the rules are. So this is giving us a real inkling into what we can focus on, what we can choose to focus on, what can elevate our frequency and our consciousness, and in so doing, help everybody around us. So this is what we're going to be talking about now, care of Mary Magdalene summary. So what used to happen is that when they used to have their midsummer gatherings on Cyprus, Mary Magdalene would talk about the time that she spent with Jeshua, and what she would always give was a keynote speech. So in the 11 years that followed the crucifixion, they met 8 times. So 3 years it wasn't logistically possible within that 11 years, but they managed to get together 8 times. So there are 8 Mary Magdalene summaries. Now the balance and harmony happens to be one of them. So that is what we're going to listen to now. So if you bear with me a second, we are going to switch screens and listen to that.
Alario, concerning balance and harmony, Mary Magdalene said this: "The universe moves constantly towards harmony and is sustained by a system of balances. When you know about these balances, you begin to understand the true nature of things. In this way, an understanding of balance helps you to penetrate the veil of illusion and see things as they really are. Throughout creation, there are a series of spectrums of energy with opposing polarities that seem to be at war with one another. Yet this is an illusion, for at the midway point within each spectrum, the extremes vanish, and all is brought into equilibrium. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in frequency. Thus, hot and cold are identical in their essential nature, which is one of temperature, but they represent different frequencies within that spectrum. Human life seems to be full of these pairs of opposites, including gain and loss, activity and stillness, more and less, loving and hating, greater and lesser, and these dualities do seem to dominate your lives. Consider, for example, the duality of gain and loss. This spectrum of energy is about supply. Gain is a plus of supply, and loss is a minus of it. Only on one point in the spectrum, the midway point, is it in balance. Here there is no gain and no loss, just the harmony and oneness of supply. If you reject and push away any of the energies on this spectrum, or try to attract and draw to you any of these energies, then you are not at the midway point. Try to focus and live at the midway point, on all the spectrums of energy, At this point, there is a resolution of all energies. Here there is a balance. Here there is equilibrium. And here there is peace. Here there is direct knowledge of reality. For at any other point on the spectrum, plus or minus, you will be influenced by the illusion that one end of the spectrum is better than the other end, and you will not be able to see things as they really are. Once you know about this system of duality, your perception of gain and loss shifts onto a more subtle level, and you begin to ask yourself more fundamental questions. Is a gain only an apparent gain? Is a loss only an apparent loss? Could a loss on the physical level really be something quite different if it led to a gain on the spiritual level? And is the whole spectrum of gain and loss not about acquiring and losing all, but about seeing into the real nature of things and looking beyond duality into the oneness of the real? Learn to look at all the dualities in life as linked together within these spectrums of energy. Focus on the midway point and bring the opposites together in your consciousness, affirming that what you are seeing is not duality at all, but the fundamental transcendent oneness of things. In this state of non-duality, you become increasingly sensitive and aware of the reality which is the all. And the more you integrate with non-duality, the more the illusions dissolve and the veil of forgetting begins to thin. Here at last you begin to see things as they really are and start to understand your own true nature as a being of light. All this greatly increases your sensitivity to balance and harmony. These are keys to the process of spiritual unfoldment, so be aware of the effect your behavior has upon your inner balance. Arguing for this or denying that removes harmony from your consciousness. By accepting everything that happens to you as part of the balance of Father, Mother, God's creation, you affirm harmony. Through harmony, the universe moves back into its natural state, and the all sings within the silence of the heart. Commentary by Alariel. This summary reveals the advanced and subtle nature of Mary Magdalene's consciousness. While Peter was fighting the good fight, Mary soared up into non-duality and the transcendent state of the real. The Church did not teach anything about the nature of reality. Indeed, it suppressed all knowledge of this kind, regarding it at best as an unwelcome diversion from the task of saving souls, and at worst something even more sinister, a way of undermining church authority. The pairs of opposites may seem a very strange concept to the Western mind. The great sage known to the Greeks as Hermes and to the Egyptians as Thoth used opposites as a central element in his teaching, calling this the principle of polarity. Unfortunately, this information, well known to the mystery schools, never percolated through the mainstream of Western thought. And so most people in the West were not able to benefit from deeper knowledge of this kind. This deeper knowledge will help you to understand the importance of balance at every level of the universe and why harmony is such a supreme and fundamental law. To enter conflict, even in a just cause, is to turn your back on harmony and move away from the nature of reality. Become sensitive to every little ripple of disharmony in your life. Resolve it and ask forgiveness of any you may have wronged. Use a constant process of forgiveness to deal with the ripples of disharmony, so that they never develop into waves that threaten your inner peace. Comment by Stuart. There is such depth to this teaching on non-duality. Consider for a moment one duality that has caused much suffering within the Essene soul family, the duality of giving and receiving. In the words of Saint Ignatius Loyola, in his prayer for generosity, over the last 2,000 years we have become so focused on the need to give and not to count the cost, that, in effect, we have shut down our ability to receive. Is this why so many light workers seem to have abundance issues? The idea that you are in illusion at either end of a spectrum of energy, but can have direct knowledge of reality at the midway point is highly significant. We may all know people who take a simplistic black and white view of the world, and now we can see what is going on with them because they focus on extreme positions. They simply can't see things as they really are because they are blinded by the illusion that dominates any extreme point. It is no use trying to reason with people like this because of the power of the energy at the extreme point. They will sincerely believe they are right, even when they are absurdly wrong. At this point, I still felt we needed more insight on how duality affects our lives, so I went back to Alariel for more information. Alariel, while you remain within the third-dimensional realm, the dualities of gain and loss / better and worse will continue to be important in your lives. Although it is beneficial to focus on the ideal of oneness, the final achievement of an enduring state of oneness has to come when you are ready for it. People who think it is easy to enter complete oneness and live permanently on that level have underestimated the amount of self-work that is required to deal with the agenda of emotional issues, story, and cellular memories. Full entry into a state of non-duality and the permanent merging with oneness is an advanced state of human development and should be recognized as such.
So, first thing to mention, actually, and I should have mentioned this before, the extract here is from this book here, which again, it's by Stuart Wilson and Joanna Prentice. We've covered their work before with other books. And this is amazing because this actually does give you the Magdalene summaries and everything like that. We're going to focus on it this week. We're going to focus on it next week as well, because this is absolutely an important opportunity for us to get a clear idea of what it takes to raise our vibration to that ultimate level. And it is not easy, to move away from duality and polarity when we're surrounded by it, to be able to find that middle point. But one thing that really kind of made me think, as soon as I saw this, and I played this for Jole, and I said, it really makes me think of the Ho'oponopono. Jole, do you want to come in and just talk a little Ho'oponopono for us? Is that the way you see it as well?
Yes, absolutely. Ho'oponopono is just life-changing. Like, I'm pretty much in my mind saying it all day long, in different phases, washing the dishes, visualizing. And this is how we close loops collectively, is we get this out there. And in the moment of of challenge or not challenge, if even unconditional love, when things are going well, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And if we know that everything is energy, and if we have the USA and other countries have patents to tamper and manipulate with our electromagnetic energy, then why aren't we combating that with something? So when you feel your energy or you see energy around you and you have no control over it, saying Ho'oponopono is so transformative. What does it do? It pushes out positive, unconditional love, and it just covers the whole environment, whatever's going on. And with that consistency, you talked about the practice, how do we move into that? It is so much of a practice. And now that we're getting into the feminine, it's about the nurturing practice. Before, I think we were more disciplined, gladiator, warrior, moving through that energy. Now it's more like, let's sit down and sew and weave and spin and talk and learn and build in a different way. And that takes time and slowness. And so when we're learning something, we really have to slow down and get into the details. So we're relearning how to be as human beings, and we're opening up to parts of ourselves we didn't even know we had. So you begin to go into conversation with yourself in these moments, meaning compassion. So we bring it full circle back to the Ho'oponopono when we feel these energies and these different vibrations coming our way, to harmonize and stay focused. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. In whatever way order you want to say that. You may say, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. Or say thank you first, or I love you first, whatever resonates with you. But just keep saying it.